Happy Easter for those who celebrate it this way. But this is the harmony of events, the arrest, the charges of the arrest and the warrant for Jesus. Breaking news, Jesus of Nazareth has been arrested. This is what we know, citing the end of Matthews 26, 27, and 28. It was the Feast of Passover when the chief priest met at Caiaphas' palace, and the high priest made plans to arrest Jesus, but didn't want to do it during the feast. Jesus was sitting at the house of Simon the leper when a woman with an alabaster jar came. Judas agreed to betray Jesus for 30 silver coins. It was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and Jesus sent them to prepare a place to party. The Last Supper took place. They sang and went to the Mount of Olives. Jesus predicted Peter's denial. Jesus and the disciples went to Gethsemane. He to Peter and Zebedee's two sons, told them his sorrow. He told Peter and Zebedee's two sons, told them his sorrow, told them to stay with him and watch. Jesus prayed, returned, and found the three of them asleep. Jesus prayed a second time, returned, found them asleep again. Third time, returned. Are you still sleeping? The hour has come. Here's the betrayer. The chief priests and Judah and elders came out with swords. The traitor gave the signal. The man he kissed. Jesus said, "Be quick about it." One of Jesus' friends cut off the high priest's ear. Jesus said, "Put your sword away. It must happen." All the disciples fled. Jesus was arrested, taken to the high priest. Peter followed him. They couldn't find any evidence against Jesus, and Jesus kept quiet. They said, "Son of Man, on the right hand of Almighty, coming on a cloud." The high priest tore his clothes, saying, "Blasphemy, he's guilty, he must die." Peter was outside. He confronted and denied Jesus. Jesus was taken in chains to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Judas repented, took back his silver coins to the sanctuary, then hung himself. The chief priest picked him up and said, "It's blood money. They can't go into the temple treasury. They used the money to buy a potter's field, a cemetery for foreigners, a field of blood to this day." Pilate questions Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "So you say," said nothing else. At Passover, they usually let one go, and he asked the crowd, "Do you want Jesus Barabbas or Jesus the Christ?" Pilate was sitting in the judgment hall and received a message from his wife. It said, "Have nothing to do with harming that innocent man." The crowd chanted, "Crucify Jesus, crucify him." Pilate washed his hands. The crowd said, "Let punishment be on our children and us. Set Barabbas free." Pilate set him free. Jesus was whipped, stripped, and given a scarlet robe, led to the cross. Simon from Cyrene carried the cross some of the way to Golgotha, the place of the skull, offered him some gall, nailed him to the cross, divided his clothes. King of the Jews. The passerbys were yelling, "Save yourself." Lawyers made fun of him. At noon, the country was covered with darkness for 3 hours, and Jesus cried out, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," gave a loud cry and took his last breath. The curtain hanging in the temple torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook, graves opened. Many were raised to life and went into the holy city. Many women looked on from a distance, and a rich man named Joseph of Arimathea asked for the body. They wrapped it in a new linen sheet, placed it in his own grave, and rolled a large stone in front of it. Mary and the other Mary were there. The next day the Pharisees met Pilate and gave orders to guard it, and they put a seal on the stone, left the guards. After the Sabbath, the angel came down. The guards were afraid, said, "He's not here, he's risen. He's in front of you in Galilee, and you're going to see him." Jesus said, "Peace be with you," and they worshipped him, but some doubted. "Baptize in the name, teach them to obey. I will be with you always till the end of the age." And the guards told the chief priests, and the chief priests paid guards to cover up the story.